Okay, so now let's change things up, and we'll jump into our code again. And what if you think about it, save.js runs right when I hit update or publish, and it writes some HTML, and the HTML is saved in a post, and the post sits in the database completely finished. And when someone requests it, the server grabs that post out of the database and flings it out into the world. And the point I'm making is that whatever happened to the way that block looks, it happened way back when the page was authored, not when it was sent out to the requesting user. And what we would like is something more real time, so the user makes the request, and then we look at whatever our situation is, and we make the block look how it looks based on that current information. So to do that, we need a dynamic render function. So what that means, though, is that save.js, we don't want to actually use it. And to avoid using it, we can hop here into the register block type within index.js, and we can change this so that it uses an anonymous function that simply returns null. Okay? So that's kind of the clue, or well, it's an indication that we're not going to use save. We're going to be using a dynamic render callback. And we set that up in Parthenon PHP. And we do that within the register block type. Right, this points at block.json, but we can also add a second attribute, and that attribute is going to be an array. Array. And in that array, we're going to have just a couple of things. And this is an associative array, and we're going to have an element where the key is render callback. Whoops, we're in PHP, so it looks like that. And its value is the name of a function. I'm going to call it PZ the block. Okay? So having said that, so what that says is that when it's time to put together that block and determine its appearance right as we're sending it out to the user, the server is going to call back this function. So function PZ the block. Right? And we can just return straight up HTML or whatever. And so let's just do that in order to establish that, in fact, this works. Okay, I'm going to refresh this, and it's going to blow up because unexpected token line 32. Right, we're in PHP. Gotta have a semicolon. Okay, and there's the text. Here we go. Now, obviously we can do a little better than that. And in order to sort of make life easier as far as putting in a bunch of HTML for this block goes, I'm going to use output buffer which is a great feature of PHP. So I'm going to use output buffer start, and then we'll drop out of PHP here, and I'm going to start us again so I don't forget, right? But everything that's in here can be just HTML. So I can do like H2. Let's do H4. H4. So nice to see this appear on the front end. And closing tag. And what's even kind of a little cooler than that is WordPress hands to me an array, an associative array. Well, you can call it anything we want. I tend to call it attributes because that's what's in there. And we can do things like here's a bigger header here, H2. Let's remember to close it. Okay, and inside it, we can do that thing that you often do, like when you're coding a template in a theme or something. We'll just drop into PHP long enough to do something dynamic, and we can echo attributes my header, because that's what we call that attribute. And that's not how we do it in PHP. We do it like this, my header. Okay. And we don't really need a semicolon, but let's just be safe. So that should work, and we're going to check in just a sec, but I just want to say real quick that this little section here where I drop into PHP just long enough to sort of do something PHP related, and spit out some dynamic data, that's very similar to something that we'll see later when we're working with React in JavaScript, and that uses a format called JSX, which is sort of like HTML, but you can stick in dynamic JavaScript stuff, and you do that dynamic stuff in curly braces, and that's, and you can do things like @ my header, and that is exactly the same idea-ish as what we just did with PHP. So it may look different, and the whole React and JavaScript thing may feel foreign, but it's kind of doing the same thing. Okay, so let's just kind of check and see if it actually works. Okay, why is it way up there? Oh yeah, so yeah, come on guys, you gotta tell me when I'm screwing up. Yeah, I started the output buffer, but I need to stop it, and I'm just gonna return ob get clean, and that will return it at the right time rather than some sort of random time at the top of the page. So this should look a little better. And you can see we did have the data there, but let's get it in the right place. That looks a little better. Okay. So now that's still not exactly dynamic data. We're getting it and dealing with it in a dynamic context, but it's still attributes are data that was stored when the page was authored. So in the next section, we're going to just quickly look at throwing in some actually dynamic data in a dynamic render callback, and I will see you there.